potholes in the road that I might fall in, thinks, oh, see, we need to be vigilant all the time. And you ask me, well, why would you respond like that?
Right, because where it sends me is nobody loves me, everybody hates me, guess I'm gonna go eat a can of worms.
Mom and dad were like live mines in a minefield. You needed to be careful where you stepped. You needed to be careful what you said, how you acted. Just had this inner battle going on, and how I showed up in the world and how I responded to the world was a reflection of that battle. Sometimes the battle raged on so long that I would be left in depression with no energy left to fight it. You might think of depression as peace. It's not peace. It is anguish. But here's maybe the thing that has not worked, is that I do them all at once. I go for broke, I hit my goal, and then I celebrate, and I start working my way right back up to my old habits every single time.
Welcome to the True You podcast. My name is Martin Kettlehead. I'm an executive coach and author of a couple of books, one on listening and one on leadership. And I'm here with my dear friend, Bill Tierney, who is, how do you describe your coaching?
Compassionate results coach.
Compassionate results coach. I love the way those two rub up against each other in my mind. Mm-hmm. Compassion
and results. Yeah. It just came to me one day that, man, this is a different way to approach helping people. This has been about, I think about 2 years ago when it finally came to me. Yeah, that's what I do. I help people get results, but I don't do it by cracking the whip. I do it by getting curious with them about, when things aren't working, let's get curious. When things are, let's get curious. Either way, let's bring compassion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It, when my colleague, Leslie Jones, who invented the spiral method, when she and I were business partners 109,000 years ago,
dinosaurs.
She used to introduce our program by saying, this is a program about love and results. So I totally vibe with you.
Very similar. Yeah.
So our topic for today has to do with how we deal with ourselves when love and results isn't working. or compassion results, we get frustrated because some result that we wanted to have happen didn't happen, right? Or when we thought we were in a love, compassionate relationship and suddenly it doesn't show up that way. There's these times when, like, my morning started out that way, boom, 3 things happened that I didn't want to have happen. And so I immediately go to this frustrated place and I make it mean something. And so we got to talking about this earlier, and Bill said what he made it mean when things like this are happening in his world, which they are today too. And then we realized, based on different pasts and also different constitutions, we make it mean different things, but we're both frustrated.
Yeah. What I was saying about the way my internal reaction that I noticed and as I reported about it would be best described, I believe, as a state of vigilance. Like I think what I shared with you was when this most recent thing happened, a miscommunication, a frustration about a misunderstanding, the part of me that thinks that I should be vigilant all the time, really careful, watching for road speed bumps and what do you call that? And holes in the road, potholes in the road that I might fall in. Thinks, oh, see, we need to be vigilant all the time. And you ask me, well, why would you respond like that?
Right, because where it sends me is nobody loves me, everybody hates me, guess I'm gonna go eat a can of worms. Like I desist from vigilance. I go to, isolation and self-abnegation.
And I just want to point out that when you say this, you're not exaggerating exactly, but you're also not representing who you are all the time. You're representing how a part of you responds when things don't go well or right.
That's right.
And the same here.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a part of me that thinks that I should be vigilant all the time. And underneath all that is the world is unreliable. Events are unreliable. I can't count on anything or anybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the core fear that then has to be serviced.
Yeah. Which is the same for me, but for some reason I make it mean there's a tinge of there's no love for me out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's so interesting. I want to stay in conversation mode and not in coaching mode. My mind just now went to, oh man, that's so interesting. Boy, where would we go on a session right now? And but we're not coaching. I'm not coaching you right now. Yeah, I mean, certainly.
Well, where would a session go? That might be useful.
Yeah. So what I heard just now is the belief, the painful belief that I'm not lovable. Nobody loves me. There's something about being loved that I have to bring attention to. I have to work for it. Something along those lines.
That's right. Yeah.
And what I've learned is that, for me to guess at what that belief might be is helpful only as long as I offer it as a question, rather than as a coach offering it as the truth. I think this is what I heard. And with IFS, fortunately, we can go directly to the parts that hold these beliefs and ask them, is this what you believe, or what is it that you believe about this?
Right. And I think that this points to what I was referring to as a constitutional difference, and that might not be a good way to say this. So I'm very open to, like where we both take the similar kind of situation where we're not getting what we wanted and we're frustrated. And for me, it's got this tinge of love, and yours leads you, I've got to be more vigilant.
Yeah.
And so that I'm calling a constitutional difference. We might come up with a better way of saying this. I think it references, it doesn't refer, but it references back to that I'm coming from, like love is what the world is made out of. And if I'm not getting what I want, then love is missing. So that's where the meaning comes from for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, it comes from the role that I took on growing up in my family, second oldest boy, Catholic, alcoholic, violent family. And it was necessary for survival to be vigilant all the time, mm-hmm. and watch for anything and prevent it from happening before it happened. But then once it did happen, and the echo of that is when things don't go my way today. Mm-hmm. But originally it was about really painful, scary, hurtful things happening.
Right.
Where I would go as second oldest in the family, and the responsible hero of the family, was anger at those that prompted it, that triggered it. Like mm-hmm. Mom and dad were like live mines in a minefield. You needed to be careful where you stepped. You needed to be careful what you said, how you acted. You didn't dare. I was so vigilant, and I felt like I had it predictably down in an unpredictable, chaotic situation. You don't ask for something when they're in that state. You don't ask for your own needs, especially when those tells, those signs are what's being shown up. You certainly don't ask for anything after 5 o'clock in the evening. They're both drunk. That's not going to go well. You're going to be perceived as a problem. So why would you do that? And so I would go to blame. I would go to blaming my siblings, like, come on, why are you poking the bear here? Mm-hmm. Of course, I'd also be angry at my parents. So when something doesn't go right now, it's not always, but there are times when things don't go right now, that those parts of me that are looking for what caused it and want to get angry and blame, those are still active sometimes. And they look to that person like, how could you how could you draw that conclusion out what I just said, for example?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How could you misunderstand after I went to that much effort to clearly communicate?
Mm-hmm.
And so that elicits an anger, and then it also brings in the proactive, like, manager part of me that says, see, now we have to even be more careful,
Even more vigilant. Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the topic here, this is interestingly helpful to kind of talk about it in this way and give it some definition, and understand myself a little bit better and my own reactions to it. Makes me want to maybe not be so hard on myself for having any reaction at all. That's another part of what happens inside automatically. Just to be hard on myself for having a reaction is what therapists would call probably self-regulation.
I don't have a good way of saying that. I just want to say something. I hope you'll be patient with me.
Oh, yeah.
I was coaching a woman this morning. She's the boss in the firm, and there's one of the teams has become a bottleneck that's holding the rest of the firm up right now. And she's very frustrated about it, and like, what can I do to, break this bottleneck, push this through? How do we get this? And that's the energy in her right now. And it just occurred to me in the coaching call, like, well, what if we just went with that? There is a bottleneck. Like, if you push things at a bottleneck, it just makes things more tense and doesn't, it doesn't solve anything. And I thought, well, what if we just declared that there's a bottleneck and be with the bottleneck in whatever way, whatever that might mean, like relieve the pressure so that it can start to go again. And then we talked about different ways that, what could that mean? We don't need to go into the details of it right now, but it occurred to me as you were speaking, like, what if you could have the opposite reaction when outside things happen? It's not that you need to be more vigilant. Like, oh, maybe, the reaction could be something the opposite. Like, oh, it's time for me to, ease up, or, create some space, or, like something the opposite. So I'm not really coaching you. I'm just sort of sharing.
Yeah. As you were sharing that, the bottleneck metaphor is similar to the logjam metaphor that I think that we talked about maybe 2 episodes ago, or I think we did. Recall talking about a logjam?
Yeah.
The solution in the late 1800s for a logjam was to throw a piece of dynamite in the middle of the logjam, and it blew everything up and got things moving again. The bottleneck, the easiest way to break up a bottleneck is to break the top off the bottle.
Break the bottle, yeah. Yeah, right.
It's not functional. We're not in business anymore. It causes a lot of damage, but boy, we don't have a bottleneck anymore, and the tension's been relieved. Now we get to focus on a different problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I love, as you were describing, when things are clogged up like that, if we can loosen it up by, you didn't use this word, but just claiming, normalizing, hey, yep, so we have a bottleneck now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, yeah.
Now, that is reality. Let's be with that. Mm-hmm. What do you want to do with it?
Yeah. One thing that helped in this conversation that I'm referencing from earlier today was I asked her to, well, what do you want the situation to be like, right? You don't want to be frustrated. You don't want to have a bottleneck. Like, embody for me for a second, like, what is that? And so that got her, sort of in a different place. It took a minute, but, we're talking and eventually she started to have new ideas. Like, oh, maybe I could ask for some help from outside the firm for that department, like somebody who knows their work. It could come in and just help them out for a while to relieve their bottleneck. Like, and that wasn't occurring to her before when she was in the frustration, right? And so we had distinguished, okay, this is frustration. What is it that you want to feel, right?
That's great. You gave her a different place to stand.
Right, exactly. And that seemed to help. And so what was the word that she used? I'm just looking it up. Oh, she said, well, wouldn't it be great if things were flowing? And you could hear in her the change of her demeanor when she said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me this morning, a similar thing happened. I was being frustrated and noticing like, this isn't me, that I don't like this feeling. And that just noticing that, I immediately realized like, oh, I haven't meditated yet. Like, because when I've meditated, those meaning making machines aren't going as fast and furious. I think, there's just more space to see like, oh, there's an issue and there's something, to be with and to deal with. There's just more space in my mind. And so I guess by stopping and naming it, like, wow, who am I being here? That I was able to see, oh, well, that's because I haven't meditated yet.
Well, and you mentioned that you woke up an hour later than you planned. Your alarm went off later than you thought you'd set it for. And so you missed your swim. At least you didn't do the normal thing that you plan to do every morning that helps you to get started.
Yeah.
Sounds like swimming and meditating are how you start your day.
They are. And it really works. I see now today when it didn't get to happen the way it normally happens, I see like, wow, that really is effective, because normally I don't feel like this in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. So that reminded me when you mentioned that earlier, that there's this concept that Rachel Fink Parks, my partner in Elevate Coach Training, talks about, top down or bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
And the top down is what you're doing. You are setting yourself up by meditating and swimming. Those are the ways that you have found that best will regulate your nervous system.
Yes.
And in IFS, we would call that helps you to access enough of your self-energy to be able to navigate your day in a pleasant and way that flows.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And by not doing that, you're recognizing by not doing that this morning, things weren't flowing. And that's the correlation, is that you didn't do the top down. But would you say that you have, that you're back to flowing again now?
I am, definitely am.
Yeah, I sense that. And how did you get there?
I went swimming and then meditated.
Yeah, so that's actually
do it in the first thing in the day got started, and then I had to go do all that secondarily. But
so yeah. Top down, proactive, you get up every morning and you've got a great habit: swim, meditate. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And when you missed that today, you paid the price. You started feeling the absence. You noticed the absence of flow, and I'm guessing you suffered a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me just finish the thought. I know you got one there. And so by swimming and meditating, now it became a reactive thing, and it restored you to your flow again.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. Yeah. The thought that I was having is that, even when I do these practices in the morning that generally set me up to be a compassionate results producer.
Yeah.
Sometimes things will happen that throw me off.
Sure.
And what reminded me of it is that a client yesterday used that exact phrase that you were using about regulating the nervous system.
Yes.
She used that phrase, and I stuck with it because it's useful, very useful. And we both agreed that one of the things that we do when we get thrown off and need to regulate our nervous systems is to get into communication.
Yes.
Right? To get to either clean something up or, get complete with a person, or just, find a accountability partner or a good listener to tell what's going on so that we can get perspective on it. So that's, does that fit Rachel's top down, or is that bottom up?
That would be bottom up. You're already feeling incomplete. Let's just use that word, or your nervous system is dysregulated.
Triggered.
Say it again.
Triggered.
Yeah, activated, and your parts are activated, and so you're attending to that so that you can come back into an inner calm.
That's right.
Yeah. So that would be bottom up. And top down is just proactive. I know that when I swim and when I meditate, this is quoting Marty, that I generally am calm inside and can be with whatever shows up. So I want to mention that just as you and I popped on the screen together here today, I saw a message, heard, and then looked at my phone just as I'm coming on with you. And I see a message from someone that I'm in communication with often. And we had a miscommunication today.
Mm-hmm.
So that miscommunication, my internal reaction to that was frustration. Because I felt like I had really attempted to be clear in my communication and considerate. Mm-hmm. And when I asked how this person wanted to partner on this particular thing, the response was very brief, and I thought I understood it. But they meant just the opposite. I took action on what I thought they meant, and then they corrected me and pointed out that I had taken action against what they had intended. So this goes back to the internal automatic blaming.
Yeah.
Like, whose fault was that? Was that me, or was that them? And if it was them, I get to be mad at them. And if it's me, I get to feel ashamed.
Wonderful.
Right. And the update that's required is that with this person, and with probably 99% of the people in my life today, all that will be required to clean all of this up is to have conversation again, which within, I almost guarantee it, that within 60 to 120 seconds, we'll both be laughing about. But these ancient parts of me that have been trying to manage the terror about stepping on one of those landmines, forgets that I'm surrounded by lovely, loving, compassionate, caring people who have the ability and capacity and to be responsible for their own experience, who may or may not, like me, have internal responses that are not functional until we bring bottom-up attention to them. And as you say, I get into conversation with this person, especially if I can spend a little bit of time with my internal reaction first and come back into calm and not force myself through my anger to try to manage an angry part, or to try to manage a fearful part. So in other words, it's not about self-management. And earlier, just before I wrote down that it's a word, if we weren't going to use the word self-regulation, which, because it's a therapy term, what would we use? Would it be self-management? And it's not that. Self-management means I'm controlling myself.
Yeah.
But tending to whatever concerns, worries, fears, and unmet needs get activated and triggered, and then noticing the automatic reactions to those worries, needs, fears, and unmet needs. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean by tending to, and doing so from compassion. If that can help me to be calm before I reach out and get into conversation to clean this up, then it's going to go really well. Mm-hmm. Very predictably, it'll go really well.
Yeah, I like that distinction that you're making. It reminds me of that book, Taming Your Gremlin.
You've mentioned this before. I have every intention to read it, and I never do.
But he's talking, your gremlin is like your inner critic, really.
Yeah.
And it's got a little bit different character or flavor, but ultimately, it coincides with the notion of your inner critic.
Richard David Carson.
That's it, Richard Carson. And he says that he talks about a sort of Tao approach. He's not strictly speaking a Taoist, but the point is that you rather than trying to manage this thing that is inner critic that's wants to blame somebody, or tells you you're not lovable, in my case, that you it's more about just getting familiar with it. Like, oh, there's that thing again, we know this happens, and this is what, and when it happens, this is what it's about, here's what's going on, and kind of let it be, in a sense, or tend to it, if there is a way to tend to it. But his point is that if we manage it, then it almost gives it more energy. It's kind of like, don't throw the ball. The dog is going to want to play catch, or fetch. You don't engage with it if you don't want it to just get bigger and stronger. And that's his recommendation in that book, and it goes with what you're saying about.
Let me interpret that. Tell you how I'm interpreting that. See if I understand accurately. So, in other words, don't resist it.
That's right. There's a lot that gets left out of most traditional leadership coaching. True leadership isn't just about you. It's about your relationships to people, to issues, and to objective reality. Schedule a complimentary discovery session to get at all of it. Go to listeningisthekey.com, click on the pop-up.
Yeah. So IFS would actually take it a step further than that. So one would be resist it, engage with it, do battle.
Yeah.
The next level is don't resist it.
Right.
Kind of points to, well, what do you do? You ignore it.
He's saying you need to be aware of it. In fact, what he suggests, he has some suggestions, but let you finish your thought before I say.
I was just checking out my interpretation, and I can see already that I was not accurate there. It's not about ignoring.
No.
It is about acknowledging, but not engaging in any kind of a battle with it.
That's right.
And then IFS would take it a step further, which is to understand it.
Yeah. That's great. Those three possibilities, I think that's right on. One of the suggestions that he has, this is so interesting, and I have found it effective, is that you find something or create something that represents that part of you, and put it, on your dresser or on your desk, so that what happens is it's an unconscious thing that the mind sees. Oh, it's over there. I'm over here. Like, I'm not that.
I see.
Right. And I've used this myself, and I've used it with clients. It actually happens. Like, there comes a moment where you're just like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not frustration, or I'm not unlovable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I see that now. And it's a funny thing that happens. So it is a kind of tending to it.
Tending. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's calling it this Taoist way of tending to it.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, that's good. Different approaches, ways to reframe. I think for years and years and years and years, I just had this inner battle going on, and how I showed up in the world and how I responded to the world was a reflection of that battle. Sometimes the battle raged on so long that I would be left in depression with no energy left to fight it.
Mm-hmm.
Other times, while the battle was going on, I found myself interacting and relating to the world with anxiety. Neither of those describes inner calm or peace. You might think of depression as peace. It's not peace. It is anguish.
Mhm.
I've lived it. I lived it for years and years and years. I'm so grateful not to anymore.
And the battle was between
Parts of me.
the parts that wanted to do something about the situation and the parts that didn't, or
Oh, just I had parts that shamed me for making mistakes. I had parts that knew I needed to take risks, even though I might end up making a mistake.
Mhm, mhm.
So that battle was going on all the time.
I see.
I had parts in my first marriage that wanted more intimacy with my wife, and parts that in support of that were trying to figure out ways to manipulate her to want to have intimacy with me. And then parts of me that were angry and hurt that she didn't reciprocate. They were all, and then parts that were saying, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't want more than I can have. Parts that were saying it's because she doesn't love you. And then parts were saying, no, it's because she's a mess. I could go on for the next hour telling you different examples of internal conflicts that were raging inside of me, all pretty much at the same time. It's amazing I was able to show up in the world at all, and alcohol helped a lot. Yeah.
Helped.
Right. It kind of got them drunk enough so they kind of shut up a little bit.
Yeah.
And or work helped a lot. I'd get them all. They kind of all agreed that being a hard worker there was nothing to argue about there. It's just work really hard.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a way of getting your mind on, off of it onto something else.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Lots of ways to manage myself. In other words.
See, it's so interesting because my whole thing about, not being loved, it goes back. My dad is in the pulpit preaching a sermon about God's love. And I'm living in this, and I still do live in this belief that, really the universe is all a product of God's love, and we're part of that. And so when things aren't going right, and it's like, well, wait a minute, what happened? Does he not love me anymore? Like that. Or did he create a universe in which things go wrong? Like, how could that be? So interesting, where these the deep-seated places these frustrations take us.
Right. Yes. And that require, until the healing takes place, until those parts of me get the updates, permanent, lasting, sustainable updates, until they're relieved of the burdens that they've been carrying around, they'll be susceptible to getting activated, getting triggered again, which will require me to do the maintenance of either managing them or tending to them. And managing them just inflames the internal battle. Tending to them has a tendency to help them to calm a little bit. And then the deeper work, which I will characterize as healing work, helps them to actually release those burdens so that they don't have to keep carrying them around at all. So there's a lot of different levels of maintenance, including the proactive type that you talked about missing out on this morning until you did it. And for you, again, meditating and swimming is what that, and that works so well.
Do you mind if I ask what do you do proactively?
I try to get good sleep. I walk with my wife 30 minutes a night at night after dinner. I make sure that we have one meal that we sit down together with and get connection.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't meditate. I'm not as active as I would like to be, at least as a part of me would like to be, rather than running 30 minutes after dinner at night. Or in addition to that, I'd really like to get myself out in the morning first thing, because like you with your swimming, when I was running, that's always set me up for a great day. I like to write. That for me gets me in the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of my clients that when I suggest that they journal, they don't want to meditate and I say, well, try working the thoughts out in journaling, and that helps a lot. It surely does. I think the sleep thing is also really important. I can't tell you how many people I know right now are having trouble sleeping. And that's a very, very important element for regulating. It's natural, but it's very important. So we might do a whole episode at some point about, if you're having trouble sleeping, why and what to do about it.
Yeah. And I do from time to time have trouble sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm committed to not treating things with any kinds of laboratory solutions.
Mm-hmm.
I will wait out a headache or breathe or drink extra water if I have a headache. And eventually, twice a year, and I just had to do this a few days ago, I'll take a couple of Advil. And I don't think that is probably harmful in any way, shape, or form, unless you're doing it every day or often enough to actually damage your liver and kidneys and whatever else it might do. So right. Ever since I quit drinking, something shifted inside where I said, well, if I stop putting alcohol in my system, maybe there's other things I need to take a look at that I am putting in my system that aren't helpful. It honestly, it took me another 12 years before I quit smoking cigarettes after I quit drinking, but that was 30 years ago, and I've been able to stick with that as well. And we actually talked about this the other day when we were talking about the dilemma around food and my relationship to my body and that sort of thing. But I've ended up with a pretty clear commitment to not putting chemicals in my body. Another example of this is in IFS, there's a lot of conversation around doing hallucinogenics, mushrooms, and what's the other one called? Anyhow, there's a lot of different things that you could do that people are saying can really assist in the relationship with parts, helping to unburden and heal trauma and that sort of thing. And I believe that's probably valid and probably true, but I have this internal imperative that says no, it's an interference. It's an interference with the natural state that's happening inside. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I'm just noticing. It's just something I notice and recognize.
Yeah, well, I think you and I are the minority.
Yeah, are you?
We're all over psilocybin and what's the other
ayahuasca? There's a lot of different ones.
And the one that sort of there's another one, ketamine. Right? Yeah, those are very popular right now. And
by the way, I want to say that I don't have an opinion about that being bad or wrong for anybody else.
Me neither. I just, I prefer. So this also brings up a really important point about regulation, is what I wanted to get to, because what you put in what you're eating, I mean, I see the difference. Like I know people who drink a lot of soda, with the high fructose corn syrup in it, and they're not well regulated, and they wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
It's the corn syrup, and other things. Like there are times when you need more protein, and other times when you need more starch. It's good to be aware of, like, what am I feeling and what food is calling to me to bring regulation or equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important to maintain this moderated self.
There's no doubt about that. You're so right about it. And I'm way out of balance there. And again, this goes back to the previous, maybe it was the last episode that we recorded where you coached me, or maybe it's been 2 episodes, but you coached me around my interest in finding a better balance and a better relationship with my body. Mm-hmm. And let me just report about that I just finished listening to that episode again. Mm-hmm. I always do whenever the episodes come out. As soon as they come out, I when I'm in my truck, I'll listen to it. And as I listened, it's so interesting that when you were coaching me, it had one very positive, supportive effect on me. I enjoyed the conversation. It was interesting. And yet, interestingly, when I listened to it again, I got more out of it. I got more out of your coaching than I got in the moment of the coaching, which, by the way, since so many people are doing their coaching sessions online, really points to the value of possibly recording them and listening to them again later from possibly a different place than you heard it the first time. So when I heard all what you had to say in the conversation that we were having the second time, something new occurred to me that hadn't occurred to me before. May I share it?
Sure, please.
All right. So you may remember that there was a little bit of disconnect between, well, why is it that I'm having so much trouble with choice around food when I've demonstrated that I can make a commitment and make a different choice around alcohol and cannabis and
Yes,
and to a degree caffeine. I didn't mention that before, but caffeine, I limit myself to 1 cup a day, and I was drinking half a pot a day up until about 3 or 4 months ago, and just decided I was drinking too much caffeine, so I cut way back on that as well. And I'm very content. There's nothing in me saying I got to have that half a pot of coffee. For some reason, my system is just fine with that now. I'll probably be just fine with not drinking coffee at all, except I'm really enjoying my lattes. But here's the thing I got. I know that sugar has a real impact on my system, on my digestive tract, and probably on my blood sugars, on just all kinds of stuff. It changes my weight. It changes how I feel, depending on how much of it I eat. And so I'm remembering when I quit smoking cigarettes that I didn't just quit cold turkey. I did a program where I cut back from 20 cigarettes a day to no cigarettes a day 20 days later by cutting out 1 cigarette a day.
Oh, really?
So by my quit day, the day before I'd smoked 1 cigarette, on my quit day, I didn't have a cigarette, and I have not wanted a cigarette since then, and that's been 30 years. And I was a 2-pack a day smoker. And the best I'd been able to do up to that point was get down to 1 pack. So there's some magic in that. And when I was listening to that conversation that you and I had a couple of weeks ago, I thought, can I do that with sugar? And so there's a lot of different things that I could implement. I could cut out sugar. I could cut out bread. I could cut out pasta. I could start running in the morning. I could count my calories. I could set weight goals, and I've done all of that in the past. But here's maybe the thing that has not worked is that I do them all at once. I go for broke. I hit my goal, and then I celebrate, and I start working my way right back up to my old habits again. Every single time. So what I am committed to doing is putting together a 1-year plan, so that once a month I focus on one area in some way.
Okay.
For example, the first month very likely will be cut out processed sugar altogether.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that first month, really be aware, how hard was it? What happened inside emotionally? What parts got activated? And how do I feel? What are the benefits of having done that? And then at month 2, take the next commitment. What is the next action I'm going to take? Will it be that I'll start walking in the morning for 30 minutes in addition to at night? Or maybe I even walk with the intention of running if my body feels like doing that for 30 days. And no sugar now, and continue the same thing. Keep track. Notice the benefits. Notice how hard it was. Notice how my parts react to it. I tell you right now that there's probably going to be a part of me that feels like I'm having to sacrifice. And I know what to do with that. But if I'm not piling too much on myself and asking the system to take on too much all at once, I'm probably giving myself a better shot at having some success there.
Very wise. Very wise.
Well, I just want to acknowledge that clarity, that insight came out of listening for the second time to the conversation that you and I had, once in person, in real time, I should say, and then the other just listening, reflecting back, and hearing it the second time.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, awesome.
So thanks for the coaching, Coach.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I no longer have. I used to always have a bag of sugar in the cupboard, and I don't anymore. It's been a couple of years, and recently I was supposed to bake something for a community event, and it required sugar. And I asked if they would mind if I didn't put sugar in it, if I used fruit or something to sweeten it, raisins I was going to use. And the two moms said, no, this is for the kids. I thought, oh, so it's okay. It's okay to poison your kids.
We're busy training the kids to be sugar addicts.
But anyway, that's not the important part of the story. The important part of the story is then I had to have a bag of sugar in my cupboard.
Yeah.
And I started to think every once in a while, like, well, maybe just a little bit in my coffee, what am I going to do with this pound of sugar? Well, maybe I'll make something. And I made myself a pie, and it made me sick.
Yeah. That's what happens to me too. When I cut out sugar,
my system doesn't want it now.
Right.
It's so interesting to me that something that used to be so yummy, just like at this point, oh no, thank you.
Yeah. So let me just report. As my parts listen to that, they're saying things like, "Well, don't even do this then." I mean, if it gets to the point where you can't even enjoy the thing that we enjoy so much, why would you even do that to yourself?
There's plenty of other things to enjoy.
Yeah. Well, we are getting very close to time. Let's summarize what we've talked about here so far. It's been an interesting conversation for sure.
Can it be summarized?
I don't know. We've traveled a ways. Well, I think one of the key ideas that we discussed today was around what therapists would call self-regulation, and I don't know what I would call it. I would just call it, well, from the IFS model, it would be a matter of doing whatever we need to do to access more self-energy. And from the non-IFS perspective, but also non-therapy perspective, it might be, what do I need to do when my inner world is not calm? And what do I need to do to make sure I set myself up so my inner world stays calm?
Mm-hmm. Right. And we talked about both the top-down and the bottom-up approach, which I think is also helpful to me to see, like, oh yeah, there's a way to address sort of as a reaction, a response to a situation, but then there's a proactive way of creating a generally more peaceful environment within.
And although we didn't name this or say this explicitly, I'll say it now, that we ended up talking about food and we talked about sleep. So there's a physiological aspect to what are we putting in our body and how are we treating our bodies, and noticing what happens internally in terms of emotions and nervous system and reactions when we do the kinds of things that we do or stop doing the kinds of things we've been doing. Mm-hmm. So I haven't said this for a while, but or even thought this, but I'll say it now. When I stop and reflect on my life and how I live it, it's pretty easy to see that I'm living it as an experiment. Like what works and what doesn't. What if I just let myself go and don't practice any kind of self-constraint whatsoever and no intentions? Well, that's the part of the experiment that I'm in right now. And then what happens when I do set intentions and do stick to some commitments that I make? Mm-hmm. And that I'm feeling myself shifting in that direction now.
That's great. Yeah, I like that notion of an experiment, and life as an experiment. To me, it brings a little more scientific approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And an experiment kind of requires some real clarity and intentionality. What is the experiment? It's just not a broad shotgun. Let's see what happens.
That's right.
It's maybe more like, if I cut sugar out for the next 30 days, let me just track the results. What if I track my mood every single day? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, when I wake up in the morning, how empowered or disempowered do I feel? How optimistic and positive do I feel? How pessimistic and negative do I feel on a scale of 1 to 10? And then track even those two measurements for the next 30 days. And then maybe simultaneously I'll measure something physiological, like how's my sleep when I cut sugar out, and what's happening with my weight. Not to set a weight goal, but just what is happening with my weight.
That's right. That's right.
Just do data collection rather than having goals to achieve.
But that is right. You have to isolate. You can't change everything. You have to, they do the same experiment in the lab under certain laboratory conditions to see if we change this one thing, how does that affect it?
Yeah. So just talking about it in this way makes me feel a little more committed to it, and it's like some self accountability. So please, it's a request and permission at the same time. Ask me about it later.
I will be glad to do that.
Appreciate it. Okay. Great conversation. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
We appreciate who you are, that you would be listening to this podcast, and want to acknowledge all those parts of you that yearn for the experience of the true you.
If you like this episode, click like, share it with others, and be sure to subscribe. Listen again next week for the newest episode.
Check show notes for a transcript and a link to resources, including a link to let us know if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for listening and going on this journey with us back to the true you.